Bible says here, Jesus began to speak to them. That we ought to pray. And that time is very, 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 very crucial to the believer. This time could make or break who we are. This time could really, really decide how you are going to go through the very things that you are going to go through. That Jesus was telling them that at all times they ought to pray. Somebody say all times. This time of all times is so important because it lets us know that we really don't have a time that we should not pray. And Jesus says you got to pray at all times, which is telling us good times you ought to pray. And many of us have been through so much hell in our lives that we know how to pray in the bad times. But do you know how to pray when all your bills is paid? Yeah, I ain't going to talk to me. I'm going to talk to myself. Do you know how to pray when you ain't worried about what you're going to eat? Do you know how to pray when your body is healthy? Do you know how to pray when the kids are doing good in school? Do you know how to pray when all your needs are met and a lot of your wants are met? Y'all hear me today. Do you know how to pray? Sometimes we've been through so much that we don't know how to pray when things are right. And you're saying, God, I want everything to just be perfect in my life. And could you imagine just for a moment that God's sitting there like, if it is perfect, I'll lose you. If it is perfect, you won't come to church faithfully. If it is perfect, you won't go to your job. If it is perfect, you're going to act crazy on your job because you're going to think you're somebody because the Lord has met your needs and you're going to feel like you don't need that check. Do we know how to act when we know how to pray when we're really living holy, not fake living holy? Do you know how to be and how to pray when your mind is right? That Jesus would say, listen, there is a time for you to pray. And that time is, look at somebody and say, it's at all times. When I'm going in, I pray. When I come out, I pray. When I'm going through, I pray. When I'm not going through, that's the perfect time to pray. We can pray in the valley, but I come to tell God, God, teach me how to pray when I'm on a mountaintop. Y'all ain't trying to hear me. If you go bless somebody to be a billionaire, teach me how to pray while I'm a billionaire, God. If you go teach somebody, I feel a prayer right there. If you go teach somebody how to pray, teach me how to pray when my life is well. I've been through too much and I want to change. God, teach me how to pray when I'm living good. Somebody shout at all times. You ought to pray. Let me challenge you. When the trial is over, don't stop praying. You ought to level up on that thing when the trial is over. Why? Because you just never know what's coming next. And I got to stay prayed up so whatever tries to hit my life, I already have a defense against it. It's time out. Can we leave this in 2018? Can we leave this in 2018? Let's leave this. You know what we're going to leave? Watch this. I got it. We are going to leave only building connection with God when everything is wrong. Can we leave that? Here's the thing, that trials are going to come in this life. But if I'm already prayed up when the trial comes, then I ain't gonna bend at all. Because I don't have to go looking for God, because me and him still on the talking basis. I don't have to go looking for God because me and him already been in worship together. I don't have to go looking for God because me and him are already in communication. I don't have to go looking for God because me and him have already been on good talking terms. I don't have to go looking for God because I know his voice and he knows mine. I don't have to go looking for God because he knows what it sounds like when the child call him. So the next time something comes, I already have relationship. But too often, when the bad times come, you have to then go back and sanctify yourself rather than living a life of sanctification. Rather than living a life of having a relationship, you have to go back and fix your relationship with God. How would you feel if you was in a relationship with somebody and every time their life went to craps, they came back and tried to rebuild a relationship with you because they knew you could bring them out? You will be putting all types of statuses about them on Facebook and don't even tag them. You know you ain't right. This is what you'll be doing. But we do it to God. Somebody say all the time. Do it to him all the time. Jesus lets them know there's a time you ought to pray. And you ought to pray what? All the time. Look at somebody and say all the time. Watch this. Not just you ought to pray all the time, but he says this, and not lose heart. Look at somebody and say, and not lose heart. That when you pray, you don't have time to lose heart. What is he trying to say? He's trying to say you ain't got time to be praying and not believing what you're praying. Oh, y'all ain't going to talk to me today. We don't have time to be praying and don't even believe that God is going to hear us. We are wasting our time. If I'm going to spend all this time in prayer and running and sweating and sounding crazy to folk, I might as well believe what I'm saying. God, if I'm praying for a house that you told me about, I'm going to go ahead and believe that thing. So the enemy desires to trip us up because we begin to lose heart because we don't see a thing. And if we lose heart because we don't see a thing, it's not really a believing thing that you have a problem with. You really got a faith problem. Because it is your faith becomes the manifestation of the thing that you've been praying for. The Bible says, now what? Now faith is the substance of what? Stop there. Now faith what? Now faith is what? Of what? Faith, watch this. If you are hoping for something in prayer, if you are hoping, you don't have to worry about if I have the thing or not. Because my faith tells me I already got it. Y'all ain't trying to hear me yet. So when I'm praying, because of my faith in God, it's telling me that I already got the thing, because now faith is the substance of things hoped for. So it's not necessarily the thing that gives me that I rejoice about, but it's the fact that I know that God will give me the thing. So when I shout, I'm shouting not. When I shout, I'm not shouting because I see it in the natural. I'm shouting because I know I've already got it by faith. When you see me shouting and I'm not feeling well, you say, why he's still dancing? I'm dancing because by faith I realize I've already got the thing. Shout to your neighbor, say, you've already got it. You already got it. You just got to have faith for it. You just got to have faith for it. And if you can have faith for it, surely. Look at somebody and say, you got it. So while I'm going through, I realize what? I'm already delivered. Oh, yeah. While I'm in the thing, I realize I'm already brought out. Oh, yeah. While I'm sick, I already realize I'm healed. Oh, yeah. While I'm down, I already realize he's about to lift me up. Oh, yeah. When everybody's against me, I've already realized that God is before me. Somebody shouted, yeah, 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 yeah. I realized it because of faith. He said, you got to pray at what? All times. And don't lose heart. Can you encourage your neighbor real fast and tell them, say, keep praying, keep praying. Tell another neighbor, you got to tell them, keep praying, keep praying, keep praying. It's going to happen. Keep praying. And he says, and saying and he began to talk to them in a parable. And he began to, and I'm almost done now. That was my biggest point, was at the first verse. And he began to, that was a good point to me. You know what I mean? I could have really shouted right there and went home. It's hot for some reason. You know what I mean? And he began to, Jesus, you know how Jesus is. He began to say, let me talk to you in a parable. He says, in the city there was a judge who did not fear God. Don't he just make it plain and simple? And did not respect man. So he begins to tell them there was this judge and he ain't fear God. He was an unholy man. And he ain't even respect nobody that was a man. But he somehow, some way got the position. Yeah. And the Bible says that there was a widow in the city. And this widow, watch this, she kept coming to him saying, give me legal protection for my opponent. That means she had an adversary. And she needed protection, and the only place she can get it was from the judge. But notice in the Bible here, it says that she kept coming, which means she kept getting rejected. But look at somebody and say she kept coming. But why would anybody in their right mind keep coming after you get rejected? When you know you really want something, you ain't going to let no stop you. I wish I had a church right there. But you're going to keep believing and say, this thing is going to work out for my good. So every time she would go in, they would tell her no, and she would go out. But then she would come back and say, hey, I need you to give me protection. The Bible says, for he was unwilling. He was unwilling. While he was unwilling to do this, the Bible says, for a while, somebody say a while, he was unwilling. But afterward, what I tell you, she kept coming. She kept coming, Marquise. She kept coming and kept coming. And after a while, this evil man with power and position, this evil man, because she kept coming, said to himself, even though I don't respect God or man, even though I'm evil, yet because this widow bothers me, she was getting on his nerve so bad. Somebody shout, so bad. He says, I will give her legal protection otherwise. Because by continually coming, he says, she will wear me out. What if I told you some stuff you just got to outlast everybody else? They won't give you your house, just outlast them. Just outlast them. If it's what God said it's going to happen, just outbeat them. Just outbeat them. Just outbeat them. You selling that yet? You ready to give it to me yet? You ready to let that thing go? Some of y'all, I'm going to be praying for that next Lexus. I'm going to get, when you letting it go? I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to keep talking about it. When you going to let it go? And you need to start keep asking. When are you going to let it go? So that I can keep asking, when are you going to let it go? Because I need the very thing that I feel like God is saying he's going to give to me. Tell your neighbor, don't mess with me. I'm persistent. You know, one thing my parents taught me about looking for a job, my mom and them taught me, you don't wait for them to call you back. See, this generation scares me. And if my godson ain't watching anyway, but he ever hear it, he gonna be mad at me. But one time he went in a job interview. He said, I think I got the job. I said, how you know? He said, well, the interview went good. How you know? I said, when did you go on the interview? He said, about a couple weeks ago. I said, so how do you know it went good? He said, well, I felt good in the interview. Nice. Have you heard from them? They ain't called me back. I said, boy, you don't wait for them. You call them. You know how many times I needed a job and the people said, I'm giving you the job because you was the one that was persistent for it. And what did that show them? That showed them that you really wanted it, and they want people who really want the job. I'm convinced that many of us really don't want it because we're not persistent about it. You're persistent in chasing a girl, but you're not persistent in getting things together for your household. You got the energy to sit on the phone all night and talk. But where is the energy where you need to get your life together? Tell your neighbor, get it together. And he said, she go wear me out. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge said. So now watch this. So he says, now will not. So listen, this is what I love about Jesus. Watch it. He says, but now will not God bring about justice for his elect, who cry to him day and night, and they will delay. He says, and will he delay long over them? So I like this particular parable because Jesus doesn't just begin to talk to us about a righteous judge, but he begins to talk to us about a judge who is demonic, is the way I look at it. You don't have respect for nobody but yourself. You demonic, okay? You don't even respect God, nor do you respect man. You got a problem. If you really are not paying attention, you would assume that this judge here in the parable is really talking about God. And as you begin to look at the parable, you will really get confused because it will have you thinking that in order for you to convince God that you need something from him, that you got to get on his nerve. If you're not looking at it correctly, it will have you to think that you got to keep going to God and bugging him in order to get something from him. If you're not really careful, you'll be looking at the parable and you'll be trying to figure out, so in order for me to get something from God, I have to get on his nerve, and I got to be like, hey, God, or I got to be like Stewie, mom, mother, mom, hello. Y'all know how we used to do when we used to get on our parents' nerves. Mom, dad, father, pop, whoever you are, I just need you to answer me. I just need an answer. And then it will have you to thinking that in order for you to get what you need from God, you have to get in his nerve. But we must pay attention to the parable that first of all, the Lord cannot be saying to us, he cannot be saying to us that the judge is God, because number one, he said that the judge was unrighteous. Yes, God. He said the judge doesn't even believe in God. He said that the judge does not even respect a man. He's all about himself. So in this parable, it makes me wonder why Jesus would even use this parable to prove his point concerning prayer. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, Jesus is about to prove his point. Yes. So now you got this lady who potentially now, she's a child of God, and she keeps going to the judge, but because the judge is unrighteous, the judge does not hear her, and in order for her to get what she need, she must get on his nerve. And Jesus begins to end the parable, and he says this, and he says, now we'll go, he says, I would tell you, I lost it. And stop it. And he says to him, he says, I also know. He says, I tell you that, nope. Now, he says, and the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge said. Now will not God bring about justice for his elect? So now I recognize that Jesus began to tell us the story about this woman to let us know that this woman came to somebody that was unrighteous. and she had to get on his nerve in order for her to get the very thing that she needed. But at the end of the parable, Jesus says, now will not God bring about justice for his elect, and that who cry to him day and night, and will he delay long over them? Jesus begins to tell his audience, she got on his nerve to get what she wants, but when you are the elect of God, and I'm coming to a close, when you are the elect of God, you don't have to get on God's nerve in order for you to get the very thing that you are crying out to God for. Slap your neighbor for the third time and say, neighbor, you got to make sure your status is correct. You got to make sure your status is correct. Are you a child of God? Are you the very elect of God? Because I am the elect of God, when I begin to pray, I'm not worried if God is going to hear me. I'm praying because I know that the Lord is going to hear the very thing that I'm praying for. So I don't have to pray amiss. I don't have to pray with no understanding. I don't have to pray trying to figure life out. I don't have to do any of that. But when I pray, I believe that the Lord is going to hear my cry. Tell your neighbor, don't stop praying. Tell another neighbor, say, don't stop praying, because I realize that praying is a connection between the believer and God. That many times the Bible says that Jesus would go away and he would begin to pray to the Father. When Jesus was coming to